Good morning, happy Monday. Welcome to TipRanks News Bites. I'm Gutman. Today is August 15th, and here are our top news bites. Investors are preparing for a week worth of consumer insights from major retailers reporting their earnings throughout the week to retail sales data that's due on Wednesday. On a global front, a U.S. delegation just landed in Taiwan yesterday after Pelosi's visit sparked Chinese military action. And in more stock-specific news, billionaire fund manager George Soros just invested into 2 new positions, both of which are EV investments. Finally, be sure to stay tuned to the very end of today's segment for our breaking TipRanks insider news, whereas a 10% stakeholder in an innovative healthcare company just scooped up $16 million more worth of shares. You are not going to want to miss out on this one. While the positive news from the latest CPI reading depicted inflation cooling to 8.5% surely helped advance major indexes last week, the Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures are currently down by 0.19%, 0.22%, and 0.25% respectively as investors look ahead into this week. Now, just about 90% of the companies in the S&P 500 have already reported their earnings, but this week there is a major focus on retailers that are reporting, all on top of very foretelling retail sales data. On their earnings calendar, we have retail giants from Walmart and Target, as well as Home Depot and Lowe's reporting earnings, all of which will be cluing in economists as to where exactly the consumer stands. Now, it's already expected that these retailers will report multiple misses related to either inflation or supply chain issues. Walmart is a prime example that has already been making headlines for several weeks now for slashing profit estimates and bracing their shareholders for their earnings. Now, the retail sales report that will be due on Wednesday is a great indication and reflection of the current state of the U.S. economy, and it's considered to be a very reliable barometer for inflationary pressures. Now, the report is one of the Federal Reserve's most scrutinized data points as they consider U.S. monetary policy. Therefore, with all of these earnings reports as well as the data that will be released, we very well may be in for a much choppier trading week. Now, just as tensions between China and Taiwan have begun to simmer down militaristically, a U.S. delegation of lawmakers touched down in Taiwan on Sunday evening for a 2-day trip led by Senator Ed Markey, who's the chair of the Senate Foreign Relations East Asia Subcommittee. The visit was ultimately meant to reaffirm support for Taiwan and ultimately discuss some shared interests from regional security to trade interests, as well as investments into semiconductors, which remain essential as supply chains are fragmented. Now, China's embassy in Washington did in fact make a statement sharing that members of the U.S. Congress should act in accordance with the U.S. government's One China policy, stating that the U.S. has official diplomatic relations with Beijing and not Taiwan. However, Washington refuses to take a position on the matter on whether Beijing has sovereignty over Taiwan, and a spokesperson for the White House National Security Council did in fact respond, stating that members of Congress have gone and will continue to travel to Taiwan as visits are in fact in accordance with the One China policy. Now, ultimately, this visit may reignite intensified military action that has yet to fully come to a stop and may result in volatility for semiconductor stocks this week. As 13F filings, the required documentation for hedge funds to file 45 days prior to a quarter's ending disclosing their holdings all come about, billionaire George Soros reloaded on some big tech plays from Google to Amazon, but also took investors by surprise with his newest EV addition, Tesla. Now, Soros Fund Management acquired a little under 30,000 shares worth of Tesla, according to regulatory documentation, which equates to roughly $20.1 million. In addition, Soros took a position in Ford as the company presses forward with their battery electric vehicle operations. Soros' investments in both EV companies will ultimately inspire more investors to bullishly be looking into EV investments over the coming weeks. Finally, as for our breaking TipRanks insider news, Radius Health, a pharmaceutical company that's seeking to bring mid to late stage medicines to the market, saw a 10% owner in the company, Rubric Capital Management, make an informative buy amounting to over $16 million. Radius Health has a TipRanks smart score of an 8, has seen increased buying from hedge funds as of late, and is perceived well by the retail investor. So if this investment seems suitable for your personal portfolio, just be sure to jump onto TipRanks to utilize all of our tools to do your due diligence. Tip Rankers, that's our news for today, but just before we actually conclude, I want to catch your thoughts on some of these retail giants that are reporting earnings this week. Are you expecting them to actually miss on their earnings? And moreover, I'd love to know if they're actually within your investment portfolio and whether or not you're planning on buying more shares or potentially selling out of your position. Leave a comment or two down below to let me know. Now, as always, be sure to stay up to date and stay connected by joining us right here on TipRanks TV. All the shows you just cannot afford to miss. Now, until next time, thank you for tuning in.